Hello and welcome to TVandMe. This is my review of The Returned, which you can currently find airing on Netflix. This is a spoiler-free review, so do not worry if you've not seen the show, I won't spoil a thing. Woohoo! With that out of the way, let's get started. The Returned is what I would class as supernatural drama. It has elements of both genres and attempts to work them into a coherent story. Add that with a sprinkling of suspension of disbelief and you have a story you can just about wrap your head around. The show takes place in a small mountain town haunted by past tragedies, and through some unknown force some of the victims of these events start to reappear and make contact with their families. Now this is where The Returned becomes a drama, and despite the sometimes blasé and understated reactions from the families of a loved one returning from the dead, some of the scenes are truly moving. The dynamic between the families and loved ones is also tested to the limit as they try and work out how to welcome back these loved ones after already saying their final goodbyes. Now of course, people returning from the dead isn't going to be as simple as that, and as time progresses, supernatural and otherworldly elements start to happen around these people and begin to affect the lives of others, sometimes willingly and sometimes unwillingly. The story in The Returned can become somewhat confusing at times, especially in the first few episodes, as they throw so many seemingly unrelated story devices at you. But as time progresses, some of these are rewarded with those aha moments. However, some seem to have been added as just a small story arc, devoid of the big picture, and some go completely unexplained, which left me feeling as though they were forgotten about. Granted, some of these things could be explained in later seasons. There are also twists in the show. Some have foreshadowing and I did see coming a mile off, while others caught me completely by surprise. I felt these added to the mysterious eerie tone the show was trying to create, however ultimately didn't quite achieve. Nearly every episode starts with the death of one of the returning characters, to explain how that character originally died, and these deaths span a period of up to 30 years in the past. Of course, that means there are time jumps in the story. This doesn't only happen at the beginning of every episode, sometimes these jumps happen in the middle of an episode, so the show does require you to pay attention most of the time, otherwise you may find yourself lost and confused as to what's going on. The fact some of these people died such a long time ago also brings me on to one of my niggles for the show. Despite these people being dead for sometimes nearly 30 years, they don't seem to notice that anything has changed in the world around them. For example, hairstyles, technology, decor, or even the fact their loved one has aged. This is of course a minor niggle, and if I can believe in a world of returning dead people, it really doesn't equate to much of a complaint. The acting all round was good, with a few key standouts for me personally, one being Mary Elizabeth Winstead, who plays Rowan Blackshaw, a girlfriend of one of the deceased. You may recognise her from Die Hard 4. Her story arc was one of the best. Another standout was Jeremy Sisto, who plays Peter Lattimore, and his story interweaves with nearly every other character in the show. One final mention has to go to a child actor who plays a character named Victor. Whilst he is mute and doesn't really have any dialogue, he has key scenes and certain looks he has to nail in order to sell pivotal story elements, and I felt he did a great job and achieved what the character was meant to be. I am deliberately dancing around some of the key character and story details in order not to spoil the show entirely, so be rest assured there is more than I have mentioned. However, saying that, my overall impression of the show is somewhat anticlimactic. I feel the family dynamic and relationship elements were done really well, but the overall eerie supernatural themes were just not scary or intriguing enough. The show hasn't quite hooked me in as much as I'd hoped. Not to say the supernatural elements are bad, just I don't feel invested in the world as much as I would have liked. I was hoping for a deeper, more connected plot with the dead returning, but as of season 1, this doesn't seem to be the case. This show has a great premise and a good foundation. Hopefully season 2 will expand and explain further the supernatural elements. I will rate The Returned, watch when bored. If you are caught up on your usual shows and are waiting for something in the interim, this may be worth a watch. Just make sure you leave your logic hat at the door.